Welcome back to Zero Podcast. Today on episode 7, we have Malone. He's a user researcher and consultant. He's also a trader in his spare time, and he's also a writer for the Daily Chain. He's going to be talking about his UX reviews and why user experience is so important. Malone, welcome to the show. Give people your background and how you got into crypto.
Yeah, sure. So I'll kind of keep it short and sweet. But it was back in September 2017. I went to LA and I was kind of coming back from there, and I wanted to find something to fund kind of more holidays like that because I really enjoyed it. I wanted more flexibility in my life. So I was kind of searching for something that I could be doing outside of my 9 to 5 as such. And then from that, I kind of was aware of crypto, but I was looking more at stocks because I was reading about how it was much riskier, and the stocks seemed a safer play as such. And it just kind of fit my personality a little bit better. But as I was kind of looking at stock market and things like that, I seen crypto just going up and up and up, and I was kind of thinking, oh, it's going to burst, the bubble's going to burst soon. And then it come to January, you kind of get your New Year resolutions and whatnot, and then it was like, right, okay, it's time to get into this crypto thing. It's looking good still, and I want to learn more about it. So then come me in January 2018, jumping in head first, without any kind of investing experience or anything like that.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, just got completely wrecked from the off, really.
Didn't we all, yeah.
It was tough, but it was a great lesson to learn in a funny kind of way. So, yeah, I didn't put too much in because I was well aware that it was only money that I could afford to lose. I think that kind of followed on. I see myself as quite a sensible person like that. That was the whole reason why I hesitated into crypto for so long. I thought it was a bit risky, and then the same sort of mindset came into play a little bit later on in January, February time.
You kind of like the stock market, you like the look of it, but crypto was booming. So you knew about crypto for a few months before you finally put some money in, or?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know too much. I was aware of it. I was using like the Trading 212 app quite a lot, which here in the UK at least is quite a reasonably reputed app when it comes to stocks. So then I noticed that they had Bitcoin and Ethereum on their app, and I was kind of seeing the price going up and down, mostly up. And then it was kind of, after a couple of months, the New Year's resolution kicked in, and I was thinking, right, okay, time to get into this.
And that was December 2017 when the prices were going astronomical.
Yeah, so I seen that from the sidelines, and it wasn't actually till January when I thought, okay, I need to do something about this now. But that was when more like wasn't necessarily Bitcoin, it was more like the alts were pumping a lot more.
Yeah, that was unlucky timing. That's kind of when it started to...
Yeah, so I was kind of a buyer at that time. But like I say, it's just a lesson learned. And, even though it sounds crazy because I lost money, it's something that I value now.
I'm with you on that one. It's something I value as well. I didn't do particularly well in my first couple of trades, but the hard way is the best way. That's the way I look at it.
You have to. You can't change it. So
exactly, you just have to take it as a positive, learning curve. Was it Bitcoin was the first one you bought, or was it an alt?
So it's strange, actually. I have no idea why. I did a bit of research. I was watching YouTube videos onto kind of like how to buy altcoins and things like that. And I was quite nervous first coming into it because obviously there's the whole, if you make a mistake, you send it to a wrong address, then that's kind of like, that's it. You've lost your money and it's all your responsibility. So
no refunds,
I was very, very cautious of that. Yeah. And for some reason I was buying alts through Ethereum. I was using Ether rather than Bitcoin. still to this day, I have no idea why.
I
I
did that
must
too,
have
would
read
you believe?
something. Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
maybe I
sure
read
why
too
as
much
well.
into the ERC20 tokens. Maybe I read something into that.
Well, the
Um,
ICOs were booming as well, so ERC20
yeah.
tokens were everywhere.
So I mean, obviously it's a year back now, but that's maybe the only reason I can think why I did that. But yeah, it was just kind of the way I was introduced to it, and that's the way I went with it.
So you're using ETH to purchase ERC alts. Okay.
Mostly the big shield ones as well on Twitter. I joined up to Twitter about February time as well, and just kind of seeing everybody talking about the standard Dragon ICX. So they were a couple that I bought into, and to be honest, even now to this day, I kind of still have that because it got to May, June time, I still had it, and I was like, I'm not selling for a loss now because I was still so inexperienced.
Yeah.
And they're still sat somewhere. I mean, I've kind of wrote them off in my head now as a learning curve, and they just kind of dust somewhere. But yeah,
I think a lot of people are like that. They have old coins that, they're not willing to sell for a loss.
So I was just going to say, if they ever come to anything again in the future, then so be it. But
Exactly,
if you are expecting them to still return, a 10x or whatever you've got in your head, it's only going to end badly for you. So you've just got to kind of forget it ever happened.
Forgive and forget, definitely. And what was your first experience with exchanges? Like, can you remember which one you used first? Or
Well, that was one of the things. Again, I joined up at peak time, and I couldn't get onto any of the exchanges. There was just huge queues to actually get signed up. So when I was trying to sign up to Binance, I had to wait. I can't remember exactly how long it was, but I had to wait before they kind of got back to me and emailed me and said, the account had finally been set up. But I'm pretty sure it was at least, a good few days. And then KuCoin as well was another one that I kind of got drawn to. I think it was just because the wait was a little bit shorter, but they were kind of the exchanges that I started using. And I was literally just watching YouTube videos and going step by step. I was doing step one, I was pausing it, making sure I got that right and moving through it. I mean, looking at the market now compared to that, it's a completely different place.
Yeah, it's matured a lot, hasn't it? Like in a year, like just over a year. So you're a user researcher and a consultant. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I'll just give a quick brief of my background. So I was a junior developer for a couple of years once I come out of college. And then as I was kind of learning that on the job as such, after a couple of years, I just told myself that, it wasn't for me. It was too technical, it was too complex, and it wasn't something that I enjoyed. I enjoyed being involved in technology, but not necessarily that role. And it was just one day I kind of, I thought it's better to nip this in the bud now before I get too deep and, things are a little bit different. So I kind of moved my job role into UX. It was something that I was aware of because I worked closely with designers and researchers.
Yeah.
And I thought, maybe that's something that I would much prefer to do. So I kind of moved into UX probably about 18 months ago now, primarily as a user researcher, which is more about speaking to users, communicating with them effectively, and just making sure that people understand that you may have ideas in your head that something should work in a certain way. But when you really do put it in front of the user and, you kind of show them the process, they can always disagree with that.
Of course, that can be
get that
frustrating,
different
I guess.
perspective. Yeah, I mean, it can be frustrating if you get so far along the line thinking that you have the answers when really you release something and it wasn't kind of the response you expected because you put a lot of time and resources into it. So that's why you've got to do your research and speak to users consistently throughout the whole process, just to make sure that you're always, on the right lines.
So you recently released your KuCoin UI review on the Daily Chain. How important is user experience?
I think it's massive, especially in the crypto space. I know plenty of people say, it's important and it's going to drive adoption and whatnot, which, I won't disagree with. Maybe it will. But it's just such a technical place, and there's so many technical terms to understand, and the average person is going to struggle to pick up on these things. You've got ERC20 tokens to master nodes. It's not something that people are aware of. They're just not. It's something that crypto introduces to people, so it can be quite frustrating for many people to kind of get their heads around these things. So just trying to make a user experience that average Joe can adapt to. You can just come along and use something first time with no problems.
No problems, exactly. Yeah.
And once we can kind of crack that, then it could open up all sorts of opportunities. I'm not saying it's easy and it's a quick fix. It's definitely not. But it's definitely something that we need to be working on.
Prioritizing, definitely. Because we had Shaun Biggs on the show a few weeks ago. And, he's the UK ambassador for Waves platform. And I was explaining to him, the UI on the Waves mobile wallet is one of my favorite. And it's nothing too flashy. It's very simple. But that's the reason I think I liked it so much. And also, we have Beaksy Exchange as well. Like, they listen to their users. So I think people are underestimating how important user experience is, because when you first try something, if you have a good experience, the probability of you coming back and using it is, much more about this than I do. It must be astronomically high.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if first impressions are everything. And if you use an exchange or a wallet and it was a bad experience, then why would you go back? I mean, if you have no other choice, maybe you have to. But there's that many different wallets out there now, and that many different exchanges that you've got options, and you're going to go to an alternative before you go back to them. It's that's just human nature.
And I think that's why one of the reasons Coinbase are so successful as well, because their user interface is really simple.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of controversy around them right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
you can't deny how easy it is to just go on and buy some Bitcoin or buy some Ethereum.
That's it. Yeah,
it's so simple, and that's what people want. They just want simplicity.
And even though they've pushed up the fees recently, I'm sure you probably saw that. I mean, and obviously some of their partnerships, that's why they had some controversy recently. But again, can't deny why so many new people to this space go straight to Coinbase,
Of course, and as much as I agree with that, I think even people who are currently using Coinbase and maybe understand and know that the fees are increasing, they're still going to carry on using them because people don't like change. So if they know that it's easier and they don't have to, go elsewhere and set up a new account and learn a whole new interface and a new system, then people just get comfortable. And increase in fees isn't always going to, get people
I couldn't agree more with you here, definitely. Like, I'm personally going to stick to what I use, But we touched on it previously with your KuCoin UI review. So you're a writer for the Daily Chain, and I kind of wanted to find out, why you decided to join the team.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been speaking to Alex for quite a few months now. I mean, first and foremost, I'm not going to deny the fact that obviously joining the Daily Chain, my articles are going to naturally get more exposure, and more people are going to be reading them. More people are going to be aware of how important UX is in the space. So that was kind of an advantage on my behalf. But as well as I Alex is a really good guy. I've got nothing but good things to say about him, and it's great to work with people with such a similar mindset to yourself. We all know there's plenty of toxic people on Twitter, but if you really search hard enough, you'll find some good people there, and you can work quite closely with them if you want to. So I mean, apart from Alex, the whole overall team is really good. There's plenty of good people in there, and there's plenty of good content coming from the Daily Chain. So why wouldn't I want to be a part of that?
Good to hear. So it was the people seem to be a big important decision for you. When you were joining, having good people around you.
Absolutely.
Now, I saw on Twitter you've offered to do some free UX and UI consultations for some smaller crypto projects. What made you to offer that?
I think the drive behind that was obviously my background in UX outside of crypto, and it was just complete coincidence really that I've come into crypto and I can kind of bring that with me. I didn't plan for, when I started to work in UX, I wasn't planning on that, for it to come over to crypto. It's just kind of happened, and, it's worked out really well. So I just thought it'd be really good to bring them skills over and kind of, help out projects where I can, and, potentially, create a new opportunity for myself in the same time. So, but I mean, really, if I can build up a reputation, for work around my UX, and build a portfolio with these free consultations, and that's something that I really want to do, and something that'll help me.
Yeah, that's good. Like, I respect that you're trying to give your expertise to smaller projects and kind of give them, shed some light on some good UIs that people mightn't be aware of.
Yeah, because I'm under no illusion that I know that I can't just approach these big projects and, get them to, employ me or anything like that. And I don't expect that from them. I know that I'm new in this field and I need to, earn my reputation, and that's the way I want to do it, which I think is, a fair approach. But just to be able to think that, I can, use my skills to help drive adoption, and maybe one day tell the grandkids all about it.
That's it.
That's
Yeah, doing your
really
bit.
motivates me. Yeah, because I'm bullish on crypto as a whole long term. I think that blockchain is going to go a long way in the future, and if I can say that I was here in these early stages helping out, then that's something that I can look back on in the future and be proud of.
I'm with you on that one. I really respect that you're doing that. So also, we've covered your user research, consultations, and your writing for the Daily Chain. In your spare time, you like to trade, and you post some charts now and again as well.
Yep.
So the last time we spoke, you actually told me that it's only in the last 6 months you've started trading. So for those who are listening, what kind of skills have you learned, and what advice could you give?
Yeah, so I mean, firstly, I just want to say that I am no expert, and I won't ever try and kid anyone that I am an expert. I make it clear on Twitter that I'm learning just as everyone else is in the space. So I just want to make sure that that's kind of clear before I kind of go any further. But I mean, to be honest, it all stemmed from me just wanting to be productive during the bear market. It was probably 6 months ago that I was kind of looking for new opportunities and things like that in crypto, and trading suited me much more than kind of like the FA side. And that's how I actually started. So going back a few steps here, but a year ago, I was looking more at fundamentals. I was looking at white papers and trying to find good long-term investments. But I quickly realised that that wasn't something that I enjoyed doing. Reading the white papers and things like that, it just wasn't me.
Yeah.
So I'm a much more visual person. I like seeing things on a screen and things like that. So the TA and the charts it come a lot more naturally to me.
Okay.
In terms of tips, I can't give any expert or pro tips, but some things that I've learned that I can kind of maybe share with people who are just starting out and just beginning now, is that the charts and the TA is only half of it, if that. I know it's mentioned time and time again, but emotions and
the psychology,
risk management is just so important. Yeah, and I mean, I didn't realize it until I actually got started. I mean, I started just paper trading at first, planning where I would have took an entry and where I would have exited, left a position and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, until you actually make them trades on the exchange for the first time, that's when you really start to learn. Yeah, of course. I've made so many mistakes in them early stages. Setting limit orders wrong. I remember one example was I bought some chain link, and I set my stop loss, and that was it. I signed out. Just left it for a few days, and I got an alert to say that my target had been hit. So I was like, great, one of my first successful trades.
Yeah.
And then I logged in to find that my stop loss had already hit, even though I didn't expect it to have, and I got the stop loss wrong. So that was another, again, a learning curve. But if you're just paper trading, you're not going to learn these things. You really need to be actually, making the trades and learning that way. Even if it's just a small amount to start, it's better than not doing it at all.
Absolutely. And just touching on the psychology aspect of it there, are you familiar with Rect Capital on Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah, so I've read quite a lot of his stuff. I'm sure you're familiar. He's big on psychology and, emotional trading. I'm not a trader myself, but I have found his articles extremely useful, because even though you're not a trader and, you're still going to be buying crypto more than likely. And for me, myself, I'm going to be holding long term. I'm not big on trading because I'm not experienced. But you still have to have a strategy. And I really like some of his psychology, that he says about market cycles and whatnot. So
I think understanding the basics can go such a long way. Even, with technical analysis. If you can mark out simple support and resistance, you're ahead of so many people. I remember hearing that on a podcast probably about a year ago myself, and it was something that I kind of dismissed for a little while. It was kind of on my list to do, but I didn't really want to get involved with it. I looked at a chart, and it, for a beginner, it can be quite intimidating. There's a lot of lines going on, and it's quite difficult to read until you really dig into it, of course. But then when I learned that for myself, I could really relate to that, and I knew what he was saying.
Now, the reality of crypto Twitter and whatnot is 99%, maybe less, of people on there have no trading experience, including myself. So like you said, just learning the basics can put you much further ahead. And after you learn the basics, if you start to get a feel for trading and whatnot, go down, the more advanced trading techniques and whatnot,
Yeah, I mean, you can take it as far as you want then, I guess. And as well is that, people try and learn all these different indicators and apply so many different ones. But really, it's just finding what works for you and sticking with what works for you.
Definitely.
There's no harm in trying these new things, but you don't need to implement numerous indicators just into one trading strategy. It's probably not going to work out too well for you.
That's a good point, yeah.
I mean, at first I had a list of things to kind of learn and to read up on, the clouds and the Elliott waves and all this sort of stuff. And to be honest, I never got around to it because I just found that price action trading was what works for me. The only indicator I really use is, volume and RSI really. And that's just kind of what I've found works for me. It doesn't mean that I'll never, look into another indicator or, maybe trial one. But just at this moment in time, if something's working, then, there's no need to change it.
Absolutely. And besides, trading and whatnot, do you hold some bags long-term that you don't touch?
So, I mean, that's kind of where I started. So them bags are still somewhere.
Okay, yeah.
But kind of in terms of long-term bags at the moment, I don't really have any, to be honest. Okay. Just because I'm busy kind of trading and building up the UX brand and whatnot. So there's plenty going on already. Doing the fundamental analysis as well is quite a lot to be getting on with a full-time job. And to be honest, I can't help but feel that there's still time. I'm not sure that the market's going to be going back up to 20k anytime soon, in all honesty. So I feel like I've got plenty of time to pick out some long-term bags. And, with people on Twitter as well. So you've got Proof of Review, who's been on the show themselves, and BlockFire, guys like that who putting together some really good reviews. That's something that I recommend using for people who are like myself and don't really
like reading the white papers.
The white papers, because they're effectively doing half the work for you, and then it's just up to you to put that little bit of work into understand what you're investing in.
Well, like you said, like I'm with you on this one. I'm not a big fan of reading, really long white papers. I have done in the past because that was my only option. And obviously I wasn't aware of Proof of Review and whatnot. But with Proof of Review, I find it gives all the information that you need to know from the white paper. So why would you need to read the full white paper when it's right there?
Exactly. The amount of time you'll save and the amount of brain cells,
Yeah, so much time saved, so much time. And that's the point of proof of review, really, isn't it? Legitimize the projects and save you time. But we were just talking about, the market cycles and whatnot. That's kind of what I wanted to touch on next. What are your thoughts on the current market conditions? Do you think we're rolling into accumulation phase, or?
I mean, yeah, possibly. I don't want to be one of them people who kind of, say this is where we are and this is how long it's going to take, because quite frankly, I'm still very inexperienced and I know, just as much as the next person. So, but if I had to kind of like take a guess, yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think if we had bottomed out now and kind of was on the way back up, it just seems too easy. I know some people may disagree and may have been through a bit more of a tough time, but I feel like, there's still quite a long way to go and a few more people need to be shaken out as such.
True, yeah.
But in my opinion, though, for myself, I'm in no rush for it to end, because, I'm busy, I'm keeping myself busy, I'm building different things and my skills and whatnot. So I'm happy to just carry on for the time being while I work on this stuff, because I felt that if we were to, shoot up in the next week, then I'd be that busy kind of, involved heavily in trading and catching the next pump that I wouldn't have time to be building my UX stuff.
Well, I'm with you on that, build in the bear market and in the bull market, doesn't matter what kind of cycle we're in, and also keep yourself busy. And also, I'm also agreeing with you on the fact that I think we have a long time, to build our bags and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing, because, everyone wants to catch the bottom. But really, it's going to be very difficult for most people. I think when we was hovering around 6K for so long, people thought, that was a great time to accumulate. And you look at it now.
True. In hindsight, like in my personal opinion, I think we have bottomed out and it's going to be a slow but gradual increase. But I'm curious, and I always ask our guests this, with the halvening next year, what do you think that will have to do? Will that affect?
I mean, really, you just got to look at the history. You got to look at the price action with previous halvenings, and everything points at it being very bullish for the whole market. But it's very hard to say at this time, because where are we going to be at that time? It could be a completely different market by then. People have very different views and opinions on it. So I think we've just got to kind of wait until it gets a little bit closer and see where we are.
Yeah, and I also read recently this is going to be the first time in history Bitcoin's inflation rate is going to be below the US dollar and gold, which is very interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just read that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that, but that is quite an interesting fact.
So finally, before we finish up, what does the future hold for Post Malone?
I mean, I've just touched on it there, but yeah, I'm just going to continue building up my UX brand as such. I'm in no rush for the bear market to end as I carry on to work on this stuff. So as selfish as it sounds, that's kind of what I'm hoping to be able to continue building. But I mean, at the same time, I'm going to continue putting charts out and continuing to, improve as a trader. So when that bull market does come, I'll put myself in the best possible situation, really. So that's kind of what I'm going to be focusing on for the foreseeable future.
You're going to keep on building. Good to hear.
You got to, man. You got to keep yourself busy.
Well, this was great to have you on. Look, I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on. I know this was your first podcast, so.
Yeah, really appreciate you having me on.
No problem. So I just want to thank everyone that was listening. And also we have a quick announcement. Crypto Forge, the lead developer of Zero Currency, will be coming on for the episode 10 of the show. So keep an eye out for that one. And we'll be back next week with another episode. Bye for now.